Hello students, Mr. Jen here. Welcome to Chapter 12, Lesson 1, Part 2. Yep, that's where we're at. We will be diving into essentially Roman culture today, but a range of topics, more specific things like what was their religion, what philosophies did they like, and then we'll head into art, science, architecture. It's a real buffet of Roman knowledge. Let's do it. Alright. Gotta center myself. There we go. So religion and philosophy, we'll start there. As we noted last chapter, the Romans borrowed a lot of ideas from the Greeks. Some they kept the same, and some they changed just a bit. For example, the Romans kind of just used Greek gods and changed the names to what we now think of as planets in our solar system. Oftentimes, not all of them. For example, Zeus became Jupiter, and Aphrodite became Venus. You've got Mars, the god of war, and things like that. Mercury and Neptune. Oh, Neptune was Poseidon, Trident. So the Romans believed the gods played a large role in their daily lives. The gods protected the empire and even individual homes. Each Roman home had a shrine to a god that would protect them as long as they made regular sacrifices of things like food, honey, and incense. They weren't sacrificing children or anything like that. In terms of philosophy, the Romans were really into Stoicism. You may recall that this was a way of thought that came about in Greece, sort of the opposite of Epicureanism, where they promoted keeping life simple, civic duty, and keeping your emotions in check, so you're not making emotional decisions. As the Romans conquered new people, they came into contact with new religions and philosophies and generally allowed them to keep their religions and philosophies as long as it was not a threat to the Roman Empire. Boom, science and art. There are some scientists and physicians of note among the Romans. A Greek doctor named Galen emphasized the importance of anatomy to the Romans, anatomy being body structure. The work of Galen was actually studied for over 1,000 years here in Western civilization. I believe it was the next 1,500 years. Another man of note, Ptolemy. He lived in Roman Alexandria. Ptolemy studied and mapped the stars. He observed the rules and motions of the heavenly bodies and wrote them down. There he is, the man with the plan. The Romans themselves were practical engineers. They made what they needed, and they made it well. For example, a system of roads connected the empire, making troops and goods easy to move. They built aqueducts using arches. One aqueduct in Spain, built by the Romans, is still used today. It's Segovia, Spain. They still use the Roman aqueduct to move water. That is one well-built aqueduct. Another piece of culture given to us by the Romans that survives to this day is Roman numerals. Without them, we'd be unable to date our buildings or number our Super Bowls. See, all these Roman numerals. I know some of my Roman numerals. X is a 10. 1 is 1 pretty much. V is 5. And then according to how you place them, gives you different numbers. Let's see, art and architecture. The Romans liked Greek sculpture, but changed it a little bit. For example, the Greeks always carved perfect physical specimens, so it would be like a perfect man or a perfect woman. The Romans injected a little life into their sculptures by adding imperfections, like maybe keeping a wart or a wrinkle or a birthmark or something like that. It'd be a little more lifelike, or even making faces. The Romans also created concrete, as well as vaulted or domed ceilings. You can see an example of a Roman vaulted ceiling here. Now, the Romans had a sense of humor. They wrote dramas like the Greeks, but injected more criticism and humor. For example, they honored their gods, but also made fun of them. They wrote epic tales of conquest and victory, but also of defeat. There was usually a moral at the end of a tale, but the Romans injected more of a sense of reality. It was less fantastical, if you will. The Roman poet Horace wrote satires. Satires are kind of comedy that are kind of like comedies today that poke fun of human weakness, especially for like public figures. It basically makes fun of something. Horace also wrote odes, which express strong emotions about life. I have taken the liberty of writing an ode of my own for your enjoyment. I call it Ode to My Cat. Oh, Oscar, you are a mean, mean feline. I think you should go away now. As it is, the only way you will be found is by a farmer's plow. It's an ode to my cat. Very profound. Perhaps I should give up teaching and be a poet. So odes are fun. Maybe we'll do one in your assignment. But moving on, we need to address an interesting fact about Roman plays. There were no girls allowed. That means all men and boys, and men and boys had to play the roles of even women. They just wore masks to change their role within the play. Women were only allowed to take part in special plays called mimes, which I can't seem to find anything on. But a fun little nugget I did find while trying to figure out what mimes were is that actors in Rome were kind of disliked. Like, really disliked. Public opinion of them were very low, and they were thrown in the category of undesirables along with criminals and other equally sultry and morally questionable folks. So interesting. Not good to be an actor. In fact, many times actors were slaves and flogged if they did not perform well. Oh, how the times have changed. Could you imagine if they still did that today? For example, the new Ghostbusters movies flopped. I bet you there would be less bad films if actors were still flogged for bad performances. But moving on. Quickly, on the Roman language, you may have heard of it, it's called Latin. Latin was the language of government, trade, and learning, as well, really, the Christian religion, for quite some time. Some Roman Catholic churches still have Latin masses. Many of our words in the English language are based on Latin origin, especially in things like law and medicine. Despite technically being a dead language, because there's no country where the main language is Latin, it still appears as a language to be alive and well. That's it for today. Go ahead and move on to your quiz. And tomorrow we'll start talking about the decline of the Empire of Rome. Your quiz is a little different. It's got 3 multiple choice questions. And then it's got, there's your ode you're going to write. Is question 4 is your essay. You know, it's nothing too crazy, but follow the instructions and you'll be good. Have a little fun with it. So you get to write your ode after all. That's it for today. We're at 7 minutes and 20 seconds. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, have a fantastic day.